Kanta tayo, sing with Nanay.
Nanay!
Yay! Mabuhay! Welcome to Sing with Nanay Story Time. Have you been to school yet? Or are you in school now? Schools are a place where we learn new things and grow with friends and peers. A place where memories are made, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But there are many lessons to be learned. Today I'll be reading to you a book called When We Were Alone. And it's a story about the church-led Indian residential schools in Canada. The equivalent were the Indian boarding schools in the United States. The last residential school was closed in Saskatchewan in 1996, and their impact on the First Nations and Indigenous peoples still leaves a mark on the communities today. Just like Filipinos, Filipinas, Filipinx, like myself, who have a similar history of colonization, education played a key role for those surviving to learn Western culture that would eventually shape generations to come. According to the author, this is a story about a difficult time in history and ultimately a story of empowerment and strength. So, we will be listening to When We Were Alone, written by David Alexander Robertson, illustrated by Julie Flett, and published by High Water Press. Today I helped my kukum, which means grandmother, in Cree, in her flower garden. She always wears colorful clothes. It's like she dresses in rainbows. When she bent down to prune some of the flowers, I couldn't even see because she blended in with them. She was like a chameleon. Nukum, or my grandmother, why do you wear so many colors? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusism, which could either mean granddaughter or grandson. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I wore many different colors. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they gave us different clothes to wear. All the children dressed the same, and our clothes weren't colorful at all. We all mixed together like storm clouds. Why did you have to dress like that? I asked. They didn't like that we wore such beautiful colors, Nukum said. They wanted us to look like everybody else. But sometimes, in the fall, when we were alone, and the leaves had turned to their warm autumn hues, we would roll around on the ground. We would pile the leaves over the clothes they had given us, and we would be colorful again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear the most beautiful colors. After I helped with the flowers, we went over to the back gate. There were vines covering the gate, and they reached all the way to the ground. When my kukum, or another word for grandmother, turned to fix the latch, I saw that her braid hung almost as low as the vines. It was like she had a tail. Nukum, why do you wear your hair so long? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusism. Okay. grandchild. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I grew our hair long, just like our people have always done. It made us feel strong and proud. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they cut off all our hair. Our strands of hair mixed together on the ground like blades of dead grass. Why did you have to wear your hair like that? I asked. They didn't like that we were proud, Newcomb said. They wanted us to be like everybody else. They cut their hair very short. But sometimes in the spring, when we were alone, and the grass had grown so long and thick in the field, we would pick the blades from the ground. We would braid them into the short hair they had given us, and we would have long hair again. And this made us happy. Now, Newcomb said, I always wear my hair very long. You see how they're braiding the long blades of grass into their hair so their long hair comes back. Like they have long hair again. After my Kukum had fixed the latch, I followed her to the birdhouse. There was a bird flying through the air like a jingle-dressed dancer. She fed the bird and whispered, Napinesis, Michiso, Tamisikitian, Tamiskaisian. And her words sounded just like a poem. Newcomb, why do you speak in Cree? I asked. Newcomb said, well, Nusisim. And over here it says, in the translation in Cree to English, here, little bird, eat so you will get big and strong. So you see all the kids are sitting at their desks in the residential school. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I always spoke our language. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they wouldn't let us speak our words. All the children used their strange words, and we didn't understand them at all. Our voices blended together like a flock of crows. Why did you have to talk in their language? I asked. They didn't like that we spoke our language, Newcomb said. They wanted us to talk like everybody else. But sometimes in the summer, when we were alone and our teachers weren't anywhere around the place we were, we would whisper to each other in Cree. We would say all the words we weren't allowed to say so that we wouldn't forget them. And this made us happy. Now, Newcomb said, I always speak my language. So these two little ones here are speaking to each other so that they don't forget their language. After our gardening work was done, I sat with my kukum in the backyard. Her brother came over and sat with us. He comes over all the time. We drank tea and ate bannock. The tea was hot and sweet, and the bannock was moist and warm and melted in my mouth. Bannock is a type of fried bread. My kukum and my uncle talked and laughed like children. Nukum, why do you and Nukomis, or my uncle, always spend time together? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusasim. So here they are, eating bannock and drinking tea together. Nukomis, Nukum, or Kukum for our grandmother, and Nusasim, the grandchild, my grandchild. When we were your age, at home in our community, being with family was the most important thing. We played with each other, did chores together, and shared everything. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they wouldn't let us be together. My brother and I were separated like day and night. Why were you and Nukomis separated? I asked. They didn't like when we were with family, Nukum said, because when we were together, we thought too much of home. They're alone on a bed, missing their family, missing their community. But sometimes in the winter, when we were alone and we were sure that nobody could see us, we would find each other. We would take off our mitts, and in the crisp, cold air, we would hold hands so we could be with each other. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said as she reached over and held my uncle's hand and mine, I am always with my family. See over here, they dropped their mitts, held hands together, holding each other, never letting each other go. So this is the book, When We Were Alone, written by David Alexander Robertson, illustrated by Julie Flett, and published by High Water Press. It's one of my favorite books, and there's so many lessons to learn, especially about the history of Indian residential schools in Canada, and similarly the Indian boarding schools in the United States. We'll see you next time on Sing with Nanay. Have a great day. Bye. Paalam.
Come sing with Nanay, everybody sing along. Kanta tayo, sing.